This is Import Export with Lawrence Christoffelsz.
Fantastic, David. I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Zoran, I'll ask you to hang around if that's okay. I want to ask you a couple of other questions around some current issues and some latest developments around things like personal protection and PPE. What's happening there? I know there's a lot of stuff coming through on the media channels and on social media, and your press releases through CBFCA, Zoran.
Yeah, look, one of the main questions that comes around the importing community, obviously due to the demand for PPEs, they're interested to bring in more of these products. And the question that is posed to our members is, what are the import requirements? Are there any restrictions at the border? I'd like to make it clear that there are no restrictions at the border in relation to the way you classify and enter the goods. The Australian Border Force, there aren't any community protection questions like the asbestos and other community protections for this particular PPE. However, there are Therapeutic Goods Administration requirements. For example, a lot of the PPEs that are sold purely for therapeutic goods used in the medical system for hospitals, they're all medical grade. They require to be registered with TGA in order to be imported. And that is the difference. Smaller importers are now interested to bring in goods, and the TGA provides a lot of advice on their website that if you are to sell directly for medical use, they have to be a different grade and they have to be registered with the TGA. That is the difference. Yeah. A lot of the PPEs that are used for home use, occupational, recreational use, they can be imported, and there's no import restriction for them. However, one of the challenges is they cannot be advertised to be COVID-19 or to be, fully, medical grade, because that's considered false advertising, and this is where the TGA is keeping a close eye on this, and also the ABF is encouraging industry to report any suspicious counterfeit PPEs that come into the country.
Yeah, and I think there has been a few incidents where the ABF has basically caught some misleading product coming through into the country, haven't they already?
Yes, there was a significant intervention of what they call is a self-testing kits for COVID, and that's considered very risky for the public, because they are really prohibited import. Those self-testing kits, they need to be approved by TGA, and normally they are kits that are used again by professionals, medical professionals, not by people in the home. So because it give you a wrong reading and you get the wrong impression. So there is also Border Watch is keeping an eye on that and encouraging industry to report anything that is considered to be counterfeit.
Yep.
What we have also seen, Lawrence, is that there's a lot of quality rejection around the world of Chinese PPEs.
Right.
And recently we have seen in China has changed the export regulation for PPEs that requires now close monitoring of manufacturing and quality standards, especially for those PPEs that are sold to the medical sector.
Right.
They will be inspected prior to export, and there are certain HS codes that the Chinese will keep a very close eye on.
Yep.
And what this could do is possibly delay the supply chain a little bit, with the air freight capacity being short out of China. And on top of inspections for quality of Chinese products, you may see some delays in transit. So just the importers that are importing these products or intending to import these products, they really need to make sure that they understand the requirements, make sure that they...
That's what I was going to ask, Zoran. So, I mean, a lot of people are looking at opportunities. We talked about on the show earlier that people who are out of work, they might be looking to import product. And, I know from ATLC's perspective, there's a lot of inquiries coming through with people saying, I want to start importing product. I've lost my job and I want to start doing an online business, for example. And there's a real danger in people who haven't done the right research or spoken to the right contacts or entities to find out, well, exactly what can I do? What should I be doing to avoid doing anything wrong and making sure they don't get caught up with additional charges or border restrictions. So what would you advise there? Is it to come to CBFCA? Do they speak to a broker? How would I find a broker if I'm someone new into the import game, or even if I'm an existing importer, I want to pivot, as so many, the whole buzzword around pivot is, I want to go into new products, new industry categories. I want to check what I need to do, because that obviously has changed as well in so many ways over the last couple of months.
Look, definitely the first point of contact would have, it is good to contact a licensed customs broker or freight forwarding business that employs licensed brokers, because we operate in that environment close to the regulators and can direct you to relevant authorities. In this case, you need to understand, if you are buying products and you're in procurement, I would say that first of all, you need to understand your relationship with your supplier. Make sure that those suppliers can produce the quality standards that are required, and also to understand the import restriction in Australia and deal with the TGA requirements. As I said, there's no border restriction on the goods, but you need to understand TGA use for medical, TGA use for recreational, and what are your labelling requirements. It is false and misleading to be able to capitalise on such a crisis to call non-COVID PPEs just so you can make extra sales. And that's really what the TGA is looking at. And that's the advice I will give importing people, or purchasing people, procurement, because it is important to understand those regulations, otherwise you get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks so much, Zoran. I really appreciate you're our regular go-to expert on all things border issues, and this PPE stuff that's happening. It is really important because the consequences are serious. We can't afford people to do the wrong thing, even inadvertently do the wrong thing. So it's really important. I value your time. I know that we've run out of time on today's segment, but I want to get you back on very soon to talk about all the training programs that you're running as well, because as I mentioned before, there's a lot of people wanting to get into more trade-related opportunities with their businesses, or even as a startup. So it's really important that they can understand some of the training programs CBFCA are running over the coming weeks. So we'll speak to you again very, very soon, mate.
Not a problem. Thank you, Lawrence. Thanks for having me on the show again.